Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and today we are talking about part 3 of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion and Southern Charm season 11, episode 9. And today joining me is my good friend, Jana Firestone from the podcast Pop Therapy. We have the greatest chat, so I hope you guys enjoy my episode with Jana. And until next time, please follow me on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube channel, join the Facebook group, and also subscribe to the Patreon. It's patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator podcast. And I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Jana Firestone, welcome to the Bravo Investigator podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Dana. I'm thrilled to be here, as always.
I am thrilled to have you back, my friend. I love having you here. And I was just on your show, Pop Therapy, last week, which was so much fun. I think that was like the day that Kyle and Amanda announced their split and the day that Brooklyn Beckham came out with his like memoir about his mother.
Yeah,
about Sweet Mama.
So his memoir.
His internet
exactly.
memoir.
Yes, you're 100% right. That's what it was. Who puts a 6-page post about, I mean, really, have you had any more thoughts about that since our first chat on the day?
You know, no. It's interesting. Well, I mean, okay. Yes and no. No, in the sense I haven't gone to like do the deep depths on this. Like I know there's people that have. There are people that have been interested in this story for years and they have sort of made it their bread and butter. And I was just like, I'm not definitely interested in that sense, but watching the internet make fun of this, all of the memes of Victoria Beckham dancing at the wedding, like trying to make it Elaine from Friends or like Lisa Rinna at Andy's baby shower, like what I love the most about the internet is just the way that we can all come together sometimes to laugh in unison.
Totally. It's so good. It's so good. And it was really like it was so petty in so many ways. So it just was like the perfect fodder for internet teasing, I suppose.
We needed it.
We needed it. We need some lightness.
All right, well, we just finished. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I'm so glad we're doing this because you and I got heavy in the DMs in the last week about this particular show. And we're like, all right, we need to take this to the pod.
We're going to take it instead of to the streets. We're going to take it to the pod.
Yes.
But first, we're going to start with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City because we're going to finish this out. We just finished our part 3. But yes, Jana and I are going to go at it when we get to Southern Charm in our second part. Okay. Blood is going to be shed. Tears are going to be had. I don't know what's going to happen to our friendship. I'm a little bit worried. So you guys just make sure that, you know, Jana and I come out of this. Okay. All right, you guys. But we're going to start with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City because hopefully we're all on the same page. Actually, it doesn't really matter because you know what? I very much value your opinions on this. And I guess I'm just curious overall, before we get into part 3, what were your thoughts on the season overall this season, season 6?
I really enjoyed it. I feel like Salt Lake can do no wrong in my eyes. I feel like it's just got everything we need. We've got like melodrama, we've got delusion, we've got ego, we've got, you know, humor. I mean, I never thought we would have as many conversations about farting as we did. But God, that tickled me. And like, I just feel like it had it all. It really had it all this season. What did you think?
It really did. I feel like we fell off a little bit in the second half of the season. And even the finale fell a little flat for me. But regardless, these characters are always giving. They're always hilarious. And the most hilarious thing about them has always been that they don't really know why they are as hilarious as they are. Right? It's like we're laughing at you, not with you. But we start off this reunion part picking up where we left off. And I thought this whole song and dance was a bit interesting, and I really want your opinion on it. So this whole thing about Meredith being upset with Brittany for giving a review for a nail tech that apparently made some anti-Semitic statements online. Now, Brittany claims she didn't really know, and once she knew, she took it down. She cried in Meredith's arms. She made it right. She made it nice. And Meredith is like, no, you hate Jews.
Yeah.
Even Andy was sort of like, maybe she just doesn't like you. Like
Yeah.
she's really trying to liken it to, okay, well, she's never been kind to me, so that has to be a I hate Jews thing. I thought it was really
Mm.
interesting of Andy to sort of defend Brittany in that regard too. What were your thoughts on this whole thing? Because it is very serious to call someone a bigot. And in my personal opinion, I think Brittany is just too dumb.
Yeah. Look, I
Love
think
her,
you
but
pro
yeah,
yeah, I think you
I
probably
say that
nailed
loving.
that. Yeah, yeah. I think it's a tricky path to tread because obviously the world is in a place where these are very big conversations and there are so many horrors going on, even if we just look at that pocket of the world. So I kind of like I can understand why Meredith would feel the need to really kind of stand up and defend her religion and her culture. And part of me thinks like that's great that she's identifying so strongly. We saw her bat mitzvah last season, and I think that's a really beautiful side to Meredith that she's connecting so strongly with that. However, yeah, it felt a little bit like the wrong horse in the wrong race kind of thing. Like it just wasn't quite landing for me. And I think Brittany and Meredith clearly have had issues the whole season, if not the last few. Or last two, however many Brittany's been on. And I think she'll probably take any opportunity just to have a fight with her. I think
Hmm.
everything Brittany does, she's got a problem with, and she finds a reason to kind of get on her high horse with her. So it just, yeah, I feel like it was misplaced a little bit. And
Hmm.
as Andy said, it's definitely more about Brittany and Meredith and not actually necessarily an anti-Semitic thing.
Right. What
Yeah.
about what was the other thing she said? That she was blaming production a lot for, I
Yeah.
guess, the way she was coming off. And Andy also didn't seem to like that. He was like, oh, what is it now? And even the other women came to production's defense. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that was even more so out of even just what Heather has done in the past, where she was blaming production for the black eye, right? So maybe
Yes.
everyone just felt like a little more defensive for production. But I guess, what do you think of that? Have you ever really thought about production making her look a type of way?
Um, For me, what I read from all of that was more people kind of being fed up with Meredith not actually taking accountability for anything. She just doesn't ever seem to be able to drop the guard genuinely and
Yeah.
say, "Do you know what? I see your point. Okay, maybe I don't agree, but like I can see why that was upsetting for you." And like genuinely, okay, I'm sorry. I stuffed up. She never ever does that. She's very defensive. She's fighting. She's brick walling people all the time. And then she might just give a very terse sort of, well, I apologize for that,
That's
And
really good.
and like that's it. And it's like, okay, great. Well, thank you for the apology. But as a viewer, that never felt real or warm or genuine. And so for me, when Whitney was piping up about, you're always blaming production, it sort of just felt like, yeah, it was a way to kind of say to Meredith, like, it's always somebody else's problem. And maybe they're sick of it. And then they felt like throwing her under the bus a little bit because you know what happens if you get on the wrong side of production and the wrong side of Andy, your job could potentially be on the line. And it
Yeah.
felt a little bit like that. Um,
It was definitely not a good look.
it's not a good look. And I just wish, like, I think Meredith brings interesting things to the show, but she feels so tightly wound all the time. Like, I just want her to relax. And, I can understand she was under attack a lot this season. And that would absolutely make you defensive. And you would be coming into every scene thinking, like, what next? Like, what are they going to throw at me now? Even if some of it or all of it was deserved. I don't know. It would still feel like you having to face the firing squad every time you're kind of walking into a scene. So I can understand why she was like that. but also we need more. We need, the others just feel so loose and free and, giving everything. And I just feel like we're not seeing that at all from Meredith. So I don't know where the next season goes for her. If it's more of the same, I think the fans are going to continue to turn on her.
It's giving Eeyore to me.
Yes. Great analogy.
Like she's there,
Yeah.
but like dun 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 dun, just very slowly following
Yes.
along and just sort of depressed and not, just
Yes.
you're right.
Yes.
I completely agree. She definitely has to give more. And she took no accountability for the plane. And it's funny that
Mm.
we're on part three of this. We're still talking about the plane. What do you
Yeah.
think about the fact that Mary Cosby and her word has sort of become gospel and in a sense. And,
Yeah.
the concept of like when Mary says it, we believe it. So even when Meredith and Lisa try to convince us that less happened on the plane, and even when I start to believe them a little, then Mary goes, no, 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 that's not what happened. And then I'm like, that's right, because Mary said it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think Mary is such a kook. Like she is just like this kind of like person on the side making eyes and like taking it all in and then coming in like an oracle. Like, no, that's not right. Um, it's funny, isn't it? Because what we've seen in a certain documentary, some people are saying she's a scammer and a cult leader. And certainly in the first few seasons, that was the word on the street that she was treating her parishioners very badly and stealing from them and all of those things. So, how did she get this like 180 into, oh,
We are so funny as an audience, aren't we? Like, it's the
yes,
same with Secret Lies of Mormon Wives. We hated Whitney. We wanted her to die. And then the next season, we
yeah,
forgot why.
yes, so true.
It's our
Fickle.
fault as an audience,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah,
Okay, the Lisa and John thing I thought was really interesting, and I'm glad that Andy brought it up. He was like, people are questioning whether John was trying to embarrass you on TV. And
mm,
Lisa talks about basically this was a scene where he was making fun of her for not really listening. And he was like, oh, what? And looking at his phone and pretending to be her and that kind of thing. And she says that
yeah,
she felt it was very jabby for him. She didn't talk to him for days. She felt like he had really tried to kind of embarrass her and throw her under the bus. And she
mm,
felt like she would never do that to him. Now, I thought this was really interesting because then you're basically admitting that you wanted him to create a facade for TV. Because
yeah.
for him to embarrass you couldn't really be possible if you guys are just being true and being real and being whatever. You wanted him to placate a very perfect picture, and he didn't. And now you're pissed about that.
Yeah.
I I don't really get their relationship, probably because we don't really know John that well. But I don't know. Like, what did you think about this, or like the concept of him like embarrassing her on TV, and whether they can get past that?
Well, firstly, I just have to disclose that I'm a very close personal friend of John Barlow,
Oh,
and
okay.
so I met him at BravoCon at the bar when we were waiting to go into the Bravos, and I might have told you that,
No.
all the men of Salt Lake City were lining up at the bar, like all of the rest of us plebs, because they were not invited to actually sit at the table with their wives.
Oh
So
no.
they were just like us, and the line for the
Men,
bar,
they're
I
just
was,
like us.
yes, they're just like us. My line for the bar, I had the slowest bartender in the history of the world, and it was just taking forever. And so I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. But thank God, because then I looked to my right, and there were all the husbands. So I met Seth and I met John and Justin. But so I had a quick chat with John, and he came across exactly like the TV show. He was so lovely. And he basically said that, oh, you're frozen. Can you still hear me?
You're frozen on my end, but I can still hear
You
you.
still there?
Maybe let's keep talking for a second and see
Oh,
if it unfreezes. Oh, there we go.
oh, there
Okay,
we
there
go.
you go. Okay,
Okay, I don't know where you lost me. Um,
I can still hear you. I can still hear you the whole time.
oh, okay. Sorry, sorry.
So
So, so
you
basically,
met John, you met Seth.
yeah. And he was so lovely. And he said to me, "Oh, Lisa's going to be at the Wendy's activation tomorrow at 3 o'clock. You should come down. I'll introduce you." Like so lovely. And then he also was saying, I said, "Oh, why haven't they, got a table for you guys?" He's like, "Oh, no, no, no. It's all about the girls. It's all about Lisa. It's fine. It's fine." But he
Oh,
didn't say it like in a sort of snarky way. It was like honestly just like a loving, like, "Oh, no, no, this is her thing. I'm quite happy just to be in the background" kind of vibe.
yeah,
So I think for Lisa, she comes across as somebody who appearances is like the most important thing in her life.
right.
And so I can understand why it would feel like the ultimate betrayal for your husband to kind of make you look bad on TV. And I don't necessarily think that she's asking him, to fake the relationship or to act like everything like they're the best husband and wife in the world because she did let some things out early in the season about things have been difficult and communication's been a bit of a struggle and we had that psychic talking about it and she did appear to be quite vulnerable about some of that then. So I don't think she's fully trying to hide it. But I think I kind of understand where she's coming from, where it would feel like, what the fuck? Why are you giving me shit on TV? Like,
Yeah, no, I would totally, I think we would all feel the same way for sure.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't really feel, or maybe I just don't remember her really being that open. And so I kind of appreciate him doing this so that we could see it.
Mm, yeah.
Um, because it is an argument that people do have about her that she's not very open about her life or her marriage or anything like that. So if we can get it out of him, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Right. So for our
Yeah.
sake, I always say that, right? For our sake, I love it, but for their sake, I'm sorry.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Totally. I
Okay, I
mean,
want to
they're an
talk to you about
interesting.
Muzzy. Oh my God,
Oh my
Muzzy and
God,
this whole thing.
Muzzy.
I have a lot of conflicting feelings about this because, oh, and I'm so curious your thoughts as a therapist because we were watching Muzzy and we were seeing her and her parenting style and how demeaning and diminishing she would be towards Bronwyn and her choices. And you could see literally in Bronwyn's eyes how much she just wanted her mother's love and approval. So it was a
Mm.
very interesting thing to watch. And obviously, she got torn apart on the internet. Ryan Bailey dressed up as her for Halloween. And as soon as
So
she
funny.
said on TV that people were making memes of Muzzy, I was like, Ryan, son.
Yes.
Oh my God. I went to his account to see how many likes it got. 10,000 likes when he
Oh
dressed up
my
as
God.
it was good. It was good. And I'm
It
sure
was
he did it
great.
in jest, right? But no,
Yeah.
I'm sure she got a lot of hate because that's the internet, right? I'm sure, and
Mm.
as we know, Dawn is going through the same.
Yeah.
But she was talking about how now her mother sort of blames her for that. And how even in the scenes where she is saying, I love you now and everything is great, she still had this undertone of, but I still wouldn't have accepted anything that you did because she wants the world to still know that she is Mormon and she would never accept those types of choices. So give me your
Mm.
your therapeutic spiel on that.
Well, when we first met Muzzy, I thought, wow, this explains everything. This was the context that was missing about Bronwyn's need for approval and the way that she was relating to the girls and the whole lying about jewelry and money from her first season.
Mhm.
I was like, this makes so much sense. This comes from her childhood of never
Mhm.
having that approval and acceptance from her mum, at least not verbalized very frequently. So it made sense. I was horrified, absolutely horrified by the things that she was saying. But I think there's also that fourth wall thing that you're saying where it's like if there were no cameras and there was no TV and there was no consciousness that the world is watching this, could she have been more generous and loving and understanding with Bronwyn? Was it because she was the former wife of, a senior person in the Mormon church, and that's been her life's role? And so she feels a sort of pressure to uphold that position and that, you know, as you were saying, like level of Mormonism as her outward facing kind of thing. Behind closed doors, maybe people can be different. And so it worried me that she was putting her Mormonism and her societal role ahead of the needs of her child. And even as an adult, seemed to be unable to have a conversation that was going to be productive and healing for her child. Healing. So, it felt really uncomfortable and I didn't like it. In fact, I did an episode with somebody else about, the worst mother in the world, basically. But then as time went on, we saw a little bit more from Muzzy that was warmer and more loving and more understanding. So I'm still a little bit conflicted because clearly Bronwyn has these challenges that have come from childhood. They're not healed. The things that we saw in her relationship with Todd and the way that she would kind of come to him like a sort of broken little child, and you would see it kind of flash across her face when she was hurt by him again, and desperately seeking that approval and acknowledgement from him and not getting it. It just felt like, oh, Bronwyn, like I just want to take you out of there and like put you in like a healthy and a loving and a, really open giving space. And it felt like she was bookended by these same personalities that
That's a good
weren't
point.
giving her, the opportunity to really flourish, because then we would see moments of her flourishing. I reckon when she's with Christian Siriano, she's totally herself and she's like in her heaven of creativity and madness and eccentricism, and then she goes back in her like good little girl box and doesn't want to do the wrong thing and hurt people and say the wrong thing. And it felt like this show gave her opportunities to practice actually saying what she means and expressing her feelings in a way that maybe she's never really been able to do before. So I'm so excited to see what the next season can bring for her as a single woman. Maybe her mum's moved out and she finally has that space around her to really evolve as an individual.
No, I think this is all great for her. And, even when she said her mom would be moving out, that was before we found out that her and Todd are separated. Spoiler alert. Todd and Bronwyn are separated. But I think it's going to be a culture shock for her because I think she even said on the show she's never lived alone. So it's going to be a lot, but I think it's going to be so good for her at the same time. And while you were talking, I was sort of internalizing some of the things that she said about Todd later on in this episode and related it to so much that you said about Muzzy, about her sort of feeling like, I can't talk about my relationship. I have to live in this little box and I have to be this good girl. I have to be PR for him, basically, right? And it's
Mm,
very reminiscent of what you just said about Muzzy. And so it's almost like she transferred her relationship with her mother to her relationship with her husband. And at least she's figuring out now that that's not, productive. But I do,
mm.
I think she's such an interesting and complex character. I think there's so much more we can learn about her. And despite her mistakes and lies here and there, I think she's very smart. So I think she really had a lot of insight into her breakup with Todd. And when she was saying things like, I didn't like the way I was showing up to rally around the choices that Todd was making. And we
Mm,
noticed that. We saw her have that sit down
yeah.
with Whitney and talking about, well, maybe I'd be open to evolving with him. And we all knew, girl, no, you do not.
Yeah.
No, you do not. Okay. But
No.
we saw her try to do anything that she could to try to make that marriage work. And then I guess she was able to see it from that different lens. What do you think about the whole idea that Todd went through like a Reddit spree and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and the show? I mean, I don't know what value that would really have. I mean,
Mm,
that's the basement of the internet, right? Like,
yeah.
why do you need to see all the worst things that people said about you? It's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily paint a picture of your relationship with Bronwyn. It only paints a picture of how other people view your relationship with Bronwyn. I think that that was a bad choice.
Yeah, that like just really screams like rookie on TV, doesn't it? Because I think all the seasoned professionals, maybe other than like Sheena Shea, probably avoid all of those things. And the number one advice we hear from, OGs to newbies is like stay out of the comments, don't go on Reddit, don't read all the things, like just live your life.
But what do you think he was
And
trying to do? Like just trying to see how
well,
everyone felt about him? Like I don't really get it.
I think for him, he sounds like he comes across as a man who is very much in control of every aspect of his life. He's a hugely successful businessman, whatever really that is, and is used to controlling his image and his business and his wife and his life. And maybe it was just some sort of knee-jerk reaction as a way to try to gain control. Like, all right, let's see how bad it is, and then we go in and we clean it up. Because, hasn't he had to go in and clean up Bronwyn's messes before? We've talked about the kind of hush hush legal things that sort of came out, and it sounded like he was cleaning those things up. And so
Okay, it
maybe
did
that's
sound like that. Okay, it wasn't just me.
that was my vibe.
That was
Um,
okay.
she
That was my vibe
she
too.
danced around it. She danced around it. I think she's tried to kind of make it softer and less, concerning and all of those things, and that's fine. And I get it. And everyone makes mistakes, and then we can give her that. It's not. I'm not hanging her on that. But it felt like that's very much like the Todd father. Daddy comes in and cleans up the mess. Oh, my daughter's being a silly girl again. Let me come in and fix it all up. And so to me, that was kind of my reading of it, that maybe that was him trying to do the same thing. Like, all right, let's roll up our sleeves, see what the mess is, and then how we're going to deal with it. And like, where are my cease and desists going? Oh, Reddit user 614987B, like you're going down. So like, it just felt like to me, yeah, him just trying to
Yeah.
damage control in a way. Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about with Real Houses of Salt Lake City is Whitney's reaction to all of this because she sort of
Mm.
broke down and went running to Justin, and we heard her speaking about them having issues throughout the episode, but we didn't have a real sense as to why. What I've been able to
Mm.
gauge throughout this whole thing, and again, this is just me picking up little pieces because we didn't get a full story here, is that she was upset about him for she was upset with him for leading her towards an MLM. And then
Yes.
he said, well, I'm mad at you too for X. And I'm going to assume it's being on this show, it's putting paint
Mm.
on each other and rubbing against a piece of paper, leading to him losing his job, things like that, right? All those little things,
Yes.
maybe within their little deal that they have that Whitney did talk to Bronwyn about, where they have some sort of arrangement. And maybe there was
Mm.
breaking to the rules of that arrangement because Whitney was very specific about the rules being the most important part. And as long as you stick to the rules, you're all good. Yeah, because all marriages have no problem being open and nothing bad ever happens. But yeah, something could have happened there. But for some reason, despite the fact that she comes off so fake in the way she speaks,
Mm.
you could tell she was still being genuine when she was talking with Justin,
Yeah.
despite her voice. But I think they truly have a real bond. They have been together a long time. They've been through a lot together. And I have faith in them. Whatever it is that they're going through, they work hard at their marriage.
Mm.
Like, what is your sense of them and what this was to you?
Yeah, I had the same sort of vibe as you. And I feel like, yeah, we don't get the whole picture, but they strike me as a real couple who work through shit together.
Yeah.
And I think from memory, they got together in a bit of a questionable way. So they've already like been through some shit and they've survived it. And they've gone on to create a family and failed businesses and I feel like they actually do have each other's backs in a
They
way that
do.
feels solid, you know? And I feel like they can face things together and talk about them. I mean, the fact that they're even able to establish rules and be in an open marriage or whatever that really is.
And have that
I
never come up on the reunion, by the way. Like, we're not
yes,
going to talk about that. Like, oh, I want to
yeah.
know the rules.
Yeah, like that to me, sounds like a couple that actually really has got it together because in order for that to be successful, that needs to be very much about communication and being on the same team and being at the center of whatever else you're doing externally. And I think that really says a lot about them as a couple. And I feel like they can weather the storms. It never felt
Bad weather?
precarious. Bad weather. Yes, totally. But it hasn't felt
Yeah.
precarious where a lot
I
of other
feel it from
relationships
them.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah, I
strength there.
agree.
So, I mean, as
Yeah.
silly as this bunch is, I really do have faith in that relationship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that closes out the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City part 3. That's it. We're
Mm.
done with the season. I'm excited for next season. We haven't really heard anything in terms of casting, but I hope casting at least stays the same. Um,
Well, Dana, you know what I saw on Instagram?
what?
Did I send you this already a few months ago? I follow some casting group because they cast for the Real Housewives. So it's just
Yeah,
like
I follow them.
interesting. and they were casting in Salt Lake City, looking for
Were
new
they? Because they
housewives.
post that all the time. Like that account, if it's the same account, they usually say we post this every year. And they I think they always still go through casting rounds regardless. I'm sure they're gonna cast someone. Like I think what's so
Mm,
great about this cast is the core, right? Like we've had the same
yeah.
core OGs for a long time with a few coming in and out, but the core cast is really good. I could see us getting another friend of. I don't know
But
if we'll get another
I
full
feel like
time.
Brittany, no, I feel like they can't mess with the formula. You know, the as you say, the core group is so good. And I consider Angie part of the core group.
Mhm.
And I feel like Brittany's so strong as a friend of because she's so insane and
I
so
know, but
like,
she has been the only friend of who's ever been able to make it work without being the friend of anyone.
yes.
She's
Yes,
not friends
that's
with
so
anyone.
true. It's so true. She's literally not
Stacey Rush, apparently. I haven't been keeping up, but apparently Stacey Rush.
Yes. Yeah, that is such a good point. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it really what ends up losing you on the show is when you don't have any of those connections. It's what happened to Brandy Glanville a long time ago.
Hmm.
She ended up isolating herself from the cast so much that there was no one for her to film with. Monica Garcia as well in the same sort of vein, but like
Yeah.
somehow she's not pissing people off enough that they won't let her be around, but not so much that you know what I mean? Like it's they're
Yes.
letting her be the annoying little sister and it's working for us.
Totally. It's totally working. So I just don't want them to muck any of that up. But you know, we
Yes.
will get one last little taste of them on the Below Deck Down Under season,
Right. Yes,
which
I
is
forgot about
starting
that.
in days. So
Okay,
there's a
okay.
little bit more. So you're gonna have to watch that season. I know you're not
I'm
a
gonna
big
have to.
Decky, but
No,
yeah.
this has been a great idea because a lot of people, even a lot of Bravo people, are still not on the below deck train. And not because it's not good, just I don't know if it's because it's there's so much of it and people just feel
Yeah.
overwhelmed by it. But no, I am definitely down to get into another Bravo show. Like it would be crazy
Love
without it.
it.
All right,
Yeah.
let's take a quick break and then we will get into Southern Charm season 11, episode 9. All right, so let's get into it. Now, you and I, we're kind of going at it in the DMs, and we are
Mhm.
besties, so I didn't like this. But why don't we just kind of like air out our issues before we get fully into it? Because here
Okay.
is how I feel. I feel that all people are people, and I'm sure you can agree with me on this. All people are people, and all people, therefore, make mistakes. So there is no one person that I could ever say, I stand 100% and I agree with all of their choices because people are people and people make mistakes. So I know that you love Craig. I know that you and Craig have this very strong bond, right?
We're
He is your
very,
best
very
friend.
close. Here we
You
go.
have this hat, you know, storyteller. He is definitely going to be coming on your podcast. You touched his body over at Bravo. I just mean
I
by way of a
did.
hug.
I actually did touch his body.
You
Yes.
touched his body. And I like Craig, but Craig makes mistakes sometimes. That's all I was trying to
Sure.
say. It was just sort of giving me a vibe, and I could be wrong, but I was sort of getting the vibe from you because of your love for Craig that he could do no wrong. Would I be correct in that
Mm.
assessment or would I be incorrect?
Incorrect.
Okay, good.
So I'm definitely firmly on the Craig train, and I never was. This is the wildest turnaround for me because I think I said to you before in the early seasons, I thought he was so annoying. I was not a fan. He was just like the irritating little brother, and he's
The Brittany
really,
Bateman, if you will.
yes, and but you know, he was so familiar to me because he actually reminds me of my brother in so many ways, and so I
It's
was
so
obviously,
funny.
you know, triggered in that way for all the reasons that siblings can trigger you, and you know, so I instantly like felt I could, I just he annoyed me, but I just feel like he's grown up a lot,
Hmm.
and I think he's one of the few men on the show that is genuinely trying to improve his life
Hmm.
and be a better person. And I think the further into the season we get, and we can get into this separately from this conversation, but like I just feel like Austin is showing me things that I'm not loving, and I can see the work with Craig. Now, has he made mistakes? Absolutely. Will he continue to make mistakes? Absolutely. Am I always going to be 100% team Craig? No. Like I'm team whatever I'm vibing. So like he could, he could do terrible, terrible things. You know who's a good example of this? Joe Bradley from Below Deck Med, who I interviewed on the
Your other
show,
best friend. Yes.
my other best friend. And genuinely, we've built a lovely friendship. We're in contact constantly. He's lovely. Do I like what he did on the show? No. Do I think how he treated the girls was good? No. But I can talk to him about that and I can say it publicly. And we've had conversations like, oh, dude, that wasn't great. Oh my God. But look, it's great TV. So, you
But isn't
know,
it funny? Because I think the difference here is that you got to know both of these people in a real way, while the rest of us the rest of us peasants are only getting to know these people on on the screen
yes.
for like 15 minutes. And it's something that Ryan Bailey always says, which I always have to remind myself of. And it's so true that we are crazy when we try to make a determination about somebody's character when we only see them on TV for 15 minutes. So yes, we
Yeah.
will get into all of the things that we talked about, but I want to get your sort of bigger opinion on Sally as well, just like we just talked about with
Yeah.
Craig. So my opinion on Sally is I I like her. I don't really have any main issues with her. I could see how she's sort of like hopping from guy to guy to guy. My opinion is that is because of her upbringing and being in the South and being in a family where her other two sisters already have kids and she wants to have a kid. I mean, in my opinion, that is sort of the theme of this show. It's like
Yes.
coupling up, right? It's very important to like the integrity of the show. I
Mhm.
don't really feel like she did anything wrong with regards to like I don't really think that she is um trying to what's the word like claim any man. And only I only say that because everybody has their own agency and I don't really see her like literally like physically hanging on a guy while he's talking to another girl and making it really obvious in that way. Like I'm not seeing anything like that happening. um I don't really think that really I don't really think that's a thing because I just feel like as a guy or as a girl, you can just go around and flirt with whoever you want, and whoever is giving it back to you is giving it back to you. Um, so I don't really have any issues with her, really. I feel like you have a lot more resentment towards her, and I feel like you feel something a little bit more than I'm feeling. So why don't you articulate that a bit for me?
Okay, so I guess, I see things a little bit differently. I didn't like the way she was behaving with Austin at the bar after
Fair
Rod's
enough. Yeah,
engagement,
I don't like that either.
and
Not
it
cute.
was like not cute.
His
And
girlfriend is there. I agree.
we've all known a girl like that, right? We've all known it. And listen, I say this having had like a period of in my life of being single for 8 years. And I know that just being a single girl automatically makes you a threat around other women. And I experienced that.
Okay. I
It's
don't think,
like what I mean,
men
what
used
I
to
mean
consider
is
me a threat, but it was more so like if I wanted to go out with a friend, when I was single, when I wanted to go out with one of my girlfriends who had a boyfriend, I was never wanting to go out with the girlfriend because I want them to help me pick somebody up. That's just not in my
yes.
like wheelhouse. But the
Yeah.
boyfriend always thought so. So I was
Oh,
always a threat
interesting.
to all of my friends who had boyfriends. The boyfriends never wanted me around because they didn't want this single girl bringing their friend out to
Mm,
create this ambiance of
interesting.
singledom, which I was not doing.
Yes.
But anyways, so it's interesting you
Yeah,
say that. But I
yeah.
see what you're saying. Yes,
Well,
yes, you're a
yeah,
threat
and
because you're
it's
single and
just
you're
purely
open.
by and like, if the husband says hello to you or like is talking to you at the bar while you're waiting to get a drink, very different to the behavior with Sally, but you just happen to be next to each other. Hi, how are you? How's the work? Whatever. The daggers you would get from people.
It's
Just
like the treatment Natalie is getting on the new VPR. If you are watching,
yes,
yes,
yes.
she's just
Exactly.
existing as a single person.
She
She's constantly
is.
getting in trouble.
She is. I mean, she's a little bit in people's personal space and she is a
Sure,
flirty personality. So I can understand as well, but I wasn't doing that. Like I legit was just existing,
existing. Yeah,
maybe just waiting to order my gin and, hi, how are you? Oh, nice to see you. How, like nothing. We're not touching, we're not, whatever. Anyway, so I get that comes with, being single, but also the things that she said, it's not that she was saying directly, no one else can be with Craig because I like him. It's all of the little, insidious things. Like she would say things like, by constantly saying how she thought Craig was hot and she would totally hook up with him. She was saying without saying that she was laying the claim. Like, I like him more. Like, we
but
both
she was
think he's
definitely going
cute.
for him, right?
Yeah.
But why was that bad?
Well, I just think it would be, she's kind of like one of those dominating friends where it's like the Sally show. And I think you just kind of like Charlie looks like a little lapdog, a little bit afraid of her, so worried about Sally's opinion, doesn't want to hurt her, doesn't want to get in trouble, is the feeling that I get from Charlie.
I thought
And
about that and I tried to like put it in both of our like circumstances. For example, like I was trying to think of a circumstance where like you and I were interested in the same guy, let's say.
Mhm.
And I tell him I like him, and he's like, sorry, I'm not into you. But you know on the back end that he likes you and that he asked you on a date and you guys are going. I think it would be reasonable for me to be upset about that. And I think it would be reasonable for you to be
Yes,
scared that I would be upset about that. I
I
think she's
completely
acting a
agree.
little too worried that Sally's going to be upset about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Sally is allowed to like a boy. Charlie's allowed to like a boy. I'm just not sure. Yeah, that's the part I'm just
Yeah.
really not getting where she's like she can go after him. She's legally allowed, but you just feel like it was too forceful in a way.
Well, not at all. Not at all. I feel like absolutely like shoot your shot. You're both single and you're in the hot tub. And of course, like that would be so much fun. And you would be hoping
Someone shoot your
something was
shot in the
going to
hot tub,
happen.
please.
Yes, exact. Just not with Corey.
No.
But like, no. But so like, I have no problem with that. I think, I think it was creating so much chaos and drama with Vanita, with Charlie, with rufflings amongst the group. And then what we had also seen was early in the season her saying when, some in front of the other people that, as soon as Austin is single, she's going to bang him the next day. And like it was just feeling like I can understand why everyone would feel like, oh my God, like, and I think the other thing again that's not being said is the context of the show. And probably everybody's very conscious of camera time and wanting to be like someone on the show. And maybe what is not being said is that it also feels a little bit like I'm just going to try and like get in with the guys and I will fuck whoever I need to just to like, I want him and I want him and it's all about me. It's me, me, me. It's the Sally show. Yeah,
That
yeah,
I could
yeah.
see. That I don't disagree with you on. I mean, that I could totally see. That's a very fair theory.
Yeah, and it feels like, first of all, I mean, there's a whole other conversation we need to have about Vanita because,
Yeah.
you know, there's so much that
We didn't have
I'm
that much
feeling.
about Benita in this episode, but yeah. Well, yeah, okay. Why don't you go ahead and tell me how you about Benita?
Yeah, so I just feel like the more I'm seeing with the after show is
Oh,
making
I haven't been
me,
watching. Tell me.
it's really making me dislike Sally a whole lot more than what I'm
Okay.
seeing on the show. And I'm getting like she's quite cruel about Vanita. She's saying things like, Sally strikes me as the kind of person who rewrites history a little bit. It's like the minute she found out Craig didn't like her, suddenly he's a fucking asshole and I never liked him anyway, and you'll learn your lesson.
I
It's
want to
like,
put
hang
one
on.
other theory out there. And yes, I totally agree with that. But my one other theory, and I'm curious your thoughts because you were also bringing up the idea of the show. Do you think there's any way that this was part of a storyline for her to go after Craig? Because until he had shot her down, she was still saying things out in the zeitgeist like, Vanita knew I never liked him anyway. Charlie knew I never liked him anyway. So what do you mean by that? Do you mean because we
Mm,
all knew this was a storyline and you were supposed to be doing this? So that was just something that was in my head as a
yeah.
possibility.
No, I feel like this is like saving face
You're
because
probably
she
right.
was rejected on camera. And it's a
Yeah.
pretty bold and brave thing. Like I will give her this to say directly to somebody's face, I'm
Yeah.
catching feelings and I like you.
Yeah.
And then to be told directly, I don't see that for us.
Right.
Like, oh my God, that is like so painful and so humiliating. Even the vacuum of just doing it privately, but like to do that on camera. And maybe the producers were in her ear going, you know what, we're getting lots of really good vibes from you and Craig. You should
I
totally
hope
tell
not.
him. Well, I wouldn't
No,
put
I'm
it
just sort of feeling
past.
sad now. I bet they do that on The Bachelor all the
Yeah.
time, right? I bet they're
Oh,
like,
for
I think he's
sure.
really into you. I think you should go up to him
Yes.
again. I think you should do this when he probably doesn't even
Yeah,
know her name.
exactly. Or he's specifically said he's not into her, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think all of that's in the background, but I do
Okay.
feel like Sally is just one of those people that like if you hurt her, she'll, cut you off very quickly
Yeah.
and won't even feel bad about it. And it feels like she's turned on Craig and she doesn't really have good reason to. It's
See, I feel like
just
he turned on her.
well, I
I
feel like
saw him
he
flip
went
pretty
a little
quick
bit
there.
hard. Yeah, he went a bit
Yeah.
hard on in that conversation with Austin, but again, I feel like that was misplaced frustration and rage between actually Austin and Craig. And I feel like
Possibly.
if he'd had the conversation with Rod or with Shep, it would have gone completely differently. Like, yeah, you know, she told me she liked me and I'm not into her. Like I'm into Charlie. Like we saw him talk to Madison in a really calm and sensible way. But with Austin, it becomes so triggering for both of them so quickly that I feel like it just takes the wrong turn. And he's like screaming about Sally when actually what he means is, what the fuck is your problem, Austin? And why do you have so much skin in the game? It's because you want to bang Sally. Admit it.
As a therapist, do you like want to sit them both down? Does it almost like drive you nuts that you can't? Because like
So
it's so clear
nuts.
these two need to be in a room together, right? Like it's so
Oh,
clear.
so they are
Come
so
on.
misaligned at the moment. And even, you know, I regrettably listened to that Vile Files interview because I wanted to see beyond the clip
Mhm.
how bad the interview was with
See,
Austin.
I'd
And
only listened to it. It's funny, and I had heard it, right? I had heard that piece, and obviously for the listeners, we're talking about when Nick and Natalie were asking Austin about the death of his sister, and they did it in a very sort of quick jump sort of way. We were talking about Southern Charm. Now let's jump out of Southern Charm. And what was this cliff that your sister fell off
mm,
of? So just sort of like a very, what's the word? Like a sharp
the,
edge. That's what I'm looking for.
yeah, yeah,
Like a big
yeah,
twist to something else, to a
yeah.
different topic. And yeah, I had only been listening to it. I hadn't watched. And one of my listeners who frequently messages me said, "Did you watch it?" And I said, "No, I didn't watch it." But when I was listening, I thought, "Oh, that sounds a bit weird." But yeah, it's very different to watch it because you were watching the physical signs of his discomfort. You're watching him
Mm-hmm.
shake his leg. You're watching his whole body sort of convulse, right? It's a whole different
Mm-hmm.
experience to watch it. But please go ahead.
Absolutely. It was so distressing. And, you know, just touching on it quickly, you and I work and have worked in this kind of field for many, many years of working with people with trauma and grief. And, you know, to think even just as a human being with no training whatsoever and no experience in this world, to not be able to read the signs of somebody in distress and to push on as if you're like getting a moment. And also, it's screaming. You don't watch the show and you're a new follower and you don't know what you're talking about because we know everything about that horrific day for that family. Austin has bled on the show for us about this horrific trauma every single season, and so have his family. And they all seem like beautiful people, his family, and it was
They do.
awful, just so awful. But anyway, Austin needs some help because the rest of the conversation about Craig, like, it just like they both are not understanding each other. They're completely at cross purposes. They are wanting to connect, but they're completely misfiring and misunderstanding each other. And the connection is like they are on completely different planes. They can't
Yes.
even get in the same room. They're just, yeah,
Okay,
they,
let's get
yeah.
into that whole mess in a minute, but let's first talk about that scene with with Austin and his family. And he's talking with them about he's not sure what's going to go on with Audrey. He knows that if he asks her to move here, he knows basically what's happening with him is he gets in these relationships, and once it hits a certain point in the clock, he knows that at this time he either needs to shit or get off the pot, is basically,
Yeah.
the saying. And what's what's interesting is that I think he ends up having to end these relationships just because they need to end because Audrey wants to be able to have kids. She wants to be able to get married. He knows it's not the right thing to do to keep these girls, strung along, but he's not unhappy with
Mm,
them. And I think that's why he gets confused with his feelings.
yeah.
It's interesting because his mom is basically saying to him, I need you to have kids. It is the best thing I've ever done in my whole life. And there's a piece of him where he even says it to his mom where he's like, what if that's just not meant for me? And I know it's not meant for
Mm,
me and I'm completely happy with it, but I don't have a
hmm.
mom, who's saying like, please, please. And I think it's
Yeah.
confusing him. One, like you said, he has such a beautiful family, right? And then
Mm,
you also see that with Shep, right? Everyone in his family is married and has gone on. But I actually think that it isn't meant for everyone. And I think there's
mm.
there's a lot of strength in being able to recognize that about yourself. And also there's a lot of, what's the word? Like, what's the opposite of selfish?
Selfless.
Fine. It's a selfless thing, right? To decide
Yeah.
that, like, I know that I can't make a child happy or a person happy. I know that that's not for me. And therefore that would translate onto those people. And I know that
Mm,
that's not right. And I think there's something to be
yeah.
said for that. I think
That's a huge thing.
I
Yeah.
think he's right
And
though. I think he isn't meant for this.
do
What
you
do
know
you
it's
think?
funny? There's a part of me, like, I could see why his mum would be so sad looking at him because he has potential to be, he's like a big golden retriever, you know?
He'd be
And
a
I feel
great
like,
uncle.
yeah, but I also could see it. And this is the sort of thing that makes me sad is that is his Peter Pan syndrome and the grass is always greener a result of being famous and living in Charleston,
Mm.
where it's like 10 girls to one guy ratio? Or would he have lived a completely different life in North Carolina, where the family was from, and been married and happy and a dad and a different person had he not come onto the show 8 years ago or whenever he joined?
I mean, I don't know because I'm curious now. Now I want to do a deep dive because I'm curious if he had any successful relationships prior, right? Because if
Mm,
not, if he was doing this same old song and dance then, but then again,
yeah.
he was also younger in his 20s. So who's to say? Who's to
Mm,
say? I mean, who's to say? I look at him and I really thought Audrey was it for him. The way he was goo goo gaga over her last year, I was like, oh, he found it. It was just the person. And I
mm,
don't know. I mean, I don't know if you heard the rumor. It's not really a rumor, but when Charlie was on Watch What Happens Live, Sally was in the audience and vice versa when Sally was on. So when Charlie was on, she was asked, "Do you think that Austin and Sally are meant to be?" And she said yes. And then Sally starts to
mm.
cry, but she was already kind of crying. And Charlie was like, I just think they're the same person. And now everybody out there thinks that they're dating. I mean, they're making these funny TikToks. I don't know. I don't even know what dating is to two people that aren't like super monogamous, but like,
Yeah.
didn't she just sleep with West like a month or two ago?
Yeah, I
Right.
think they're
So I
probably
don't think they're
drunkenly hooking
together.
up.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
hooking up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it makes her cry because she would love that. And I think for two reasons. One, that's what she wants. She wants a family and to be settled down. But I'm not sure if it's truly
With
what she wants
anyone or with,
internally or whether it's like the pressure to live up to, like, she's the oldest girl in her family, I think. And, her youngest siblings are doing the southern thing you're supposed to do. And she
yeah.
hasn't done it yet. Is it because she feels like she has to and it's that pressure, or that's what she truly, truly, truly wants? Because I don't know, her personality to me is like bring on the fame and the boys and the West Wilson and the this one and the that one. And I think she'd be having a great time with that. But I don't think Austin is the one for her. I don't
No,
think that's any kind of
no,
reality.
but it's interesting that you mentioned that because now you're debating whether she actually even wants the thing that she says she wants. I'm debating whether she actually likes any of these guys or whether she's just going after whoever is
Mm,
available or not because she needs to meet this goal. So any guy that we see her with, what's going on in my brain is now, do you even like him or are you really just trying to get married? And I think
well,
that's
that's the
something that
thing.
we are going to forever see with her and we're never going to really know.
But also, if she was really so desperate to be married and settle down, could she not have just found a normal guy and settled down, gone on Hinge and met just a normal guy in her local area?
I
Why is she going after all the famous guys if it's not a fame game?
Well, honestly, listen, I think we don't know her that well. And I say that in a way where I'm actually speaking badly about her. I mean that because I think she has dated a lot of people and it hasn't worked out. And I'm not sure why. I'm curious
Mm.
why. Maybe there's something going on there. So, because even just in the TV game, she's dated a lot of people. Okay. Like, do you know she
Yeah.
was on The Bachelor? I mean, it was for like a minute, but
Yes.
like still, right? So there's still been lots of attempts, but they all haven't seemed to have worked out. I do believe it's what she wants, as far as at least that is what South Carolina wants, right? So everybody there
Yeah.
wants this except for the three Peter Pans. But outside of that, I do think she wants it. I'm never going to trust any guy that she's with in terms of whether that's her person, because now I'm just worried that she's just going for anyone who will give her what she wants. Sort of like the Emma
Mm.
Hernan and that scrub that she's dating that everybody was coming at me for in the comments where I posted about Emma Hernan
Yes.
from Selling Sunset, right? Where that is one of the most beautiful, successful women I've ever seen. And she has to date him because
I
he's the only one
know.
who's willing to have a kid with her. What?
Yeah,
But
I know.
that's what the world's come to. So if we see Sally with a scrub, we'll know why. We'll
Yes,
know why. Okay,
in her
let's get
scrubs
to the
with a
big
scrub.
fight. So we
Okay.
see the core four going to dinner, is what they call themselves. So
Hmm.
it's Whitney, Shep, Austin, and Craig. It's Craig's birthday. He's going to dinner with the core four slash his friends slash enemies. And it is so weird at this point because Craig did literally just call Austin his enemy, but
Hmm.
we have them sitting down to dinner because that is what production is expecting of us. But we can't have Austin and Craig at a dinner together without them fighting. Craig attempts to avoid that by saying, "Hey guys, let's all just be really nice and kind tonight and like not cause any drama," right? And Austin is already like,
Yes.
"Oh, Craig." And
Yes.
like, what did this even end up getting into? How did they even start
Oh.
fighting? I'm trying to look at my notes. Oh, I guess, okay. So
Well,
this is really interesting, and I'm curious your thoughts as a therapist. So Austin feels that Craig manipulated him because last year when they were in the Bahamas and Austin had a lot of stuff he wanted to air out with Craig, he feels like Craig sort of cut him off at the ankles and was like, "Never mind about all of that because I'm an addict." And so it sort of washes it all away. And now
mm,
he's out here drinking and going out with girls and doing the things he used to do. So Austin
yeah.
feels manipulated. Craig always feels like this has to, we can debate what it means, but like Craig always seems to feel like Austin really cares about what he does, and that's what this is about. But for Austin, he feels, and I feel confused too. You did use the word addict, right? They did repeat
Hmm.
that on camera. So it is odd, especially because Austin is saying there was other things I wanted to tell you. So it seems like there's a part we missed. So I understand
Mm,
in that respect, he feels manipulated. But I also feel a little confused because Craig doesn't seem to understand that he called himself an addict and
mm,
is now drinking. And
yeah.
he doesn't see the connection there. He's just like, well, yeah, I got dumped. So now I'm out there hanging out with girls and drinking. What's the problem? Well, you just said you were an addict.
Mm. Yeah, I get that totally. And I felt like that's probably at the core of this, that it's actually not manipulation, it's a hypocrisy that I feel
Yeah.
like is what Austin is reacting to.
Yes. Yes.
You know, I don't think he truly feels manipulated. I think he feels like you're a hypocrite and it's infuriating, you know, and but from Craig's, I haven't read his book, but I've heard some of those infamous clips of him reading it. But I know that he talked about having an Adderall addiction,
Right.
and I think he has ADHD, and he seems like kind of an all or nothing kind of guy. And maybe it was the wrong choice of words, but he was trying to get the point across. It's like, I have an addictive personality and it is all or nothing for me. So I had to take myself out of the bars. Otherwise, I'm there, I'm doing bags of Coke and we're doing, everything until 6 o'clock in the morning. So I can't do that anymore. I have
Right.
a girlfriend, I have a different life. I'm trying to do a different thing. So I can drink some beers and then I have to go home. Or I have to stay home because it's
But if it's
all
all or
or
nothing,
nothing.
is he doing all or nothing now? Because that's not good.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's done that work on himself in the relationship with Paige. They were together for so long. He seems to have changed a lot of his habits, and he seems to want to stay in that zone. Like, I'm going to the gym, I'm posting, motivational, words on Instagram, and I'm trying to be a better person. And I'm growing my business, and I've got people around me now keeping me in check. Like
See, I
his,
feel like I don't disagree with you, but I feel like the public disagrees with you. I feel like the public is saying, look at how shitty things have gotten since Paige has left. And that's definitely the sort of thing they're creating with production. Like production is sort of creating that ambiance. Like, oh, this place used to look much nicer, but Paige is gone. Or
yeah,
him, honestly, personally, this season, seeing him like lose his shit this often makes me remember the old Craig. And he didn't
yeah.
act like that as much when Paige was around. So, well, from what I'm hearing from the audience, they don't really feel like he really changed. They feel like it was all like a fake change. And now that Paige
Mm.
is gone, he's going back to his old ways. What do you have
Well,
to
I
say to
think we
that?
also we have to give him a little bit of credit for the timing of this. This was
Mhm.
months after the breakup with Paige.
Mhm.
4 to 6 months afterwards. They'd been together for 3 years. He was hoping she was the one and thought she was the one, and they were going to get married and ride off into the sunset. For me, when I came out of a really long-term relationship, we'd been together for 5 years, it took me years, really, to get to the place where I am now. You
Yeah.
know, I was fake fine. And in certain situations, I was fine. But was I more reactive? Sure. Was I drinking and partying a lot? Yeah. Was I,
But not on
you know,
TV.
making choices that maybe weren't great? Absolutely. Yeah. But no one was filming it.
Hmm.
And I had the space and the time to, work on myself in my own very messy sort of own way. I wasn't in therapy. I should have
Right.
been. My mum had also died recently. And like, I really should have been in therapy and I wasn't. Craig's in therapy. He calls his therapist when he's had a really big reaction and he doesn't like it. He's absolutely not perfect. But I think we have to give the context of the situation. And I think, look at how Austin was in the years after breaking up with Madison. He was fucked up. He was crazy. He was wild. And he doesn't seem to give Craig the same sort of grace. He is a little bit of a holier than thou, a little bit, Austin, and I think the other problem with their relationship is they're just like in opposing timelines all the time and it shits them both. So, like, Craig was in the relationship when Austin was single, and Austin wanted Craig to be single Craig.
It just
And
shouldn't matter. It's so weird. Like, why
it
should that
shouldn't
matter?
matter.
It's
I
why, yeah.
know. They can't give each other grace to be wherever they are in their own world and timeline.
Do you think it's both of their faults in a way? Because I see what you're saying about Austin, but I also feel like Craig gets really, like, I think I've told you this where about myself, for example, where, I'm always telling people, if you have an issue with me, tell me. If you have an issue with me, come to me at the moment. But I had one circumstance where I did not even follow my own advice. And I had a
Mm.
friend who was getting really on my nerves. And to be honest, it was her personality. So I felt like I couldn't talk to her about it
Yeah.
because it was her personality. And I
Yeah.
let it build up and build up and build up to the point where if she would even breathe near me, I wanted to punch her in the face. And that is what you are sensing from Craig, right? Like even when Austin just says something simple like, well, what do you mean about Sally? You were like best friends for like a month. And he's like, that doesn't make you best friends, Austin, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of animosity and built up resentment. It's very obvious to me.
Yes.
And I think that's what's really clouding the both of them. I feel like they both harbor a lot of resentment towards each other. So I feel
Yeah.
like in a way, they're both at fault and they both need to let all of that kind of come down,
Mm,
strip away all of the anger and resentment, which I don't even know where it started to begin with, for them to be able to
yeah.
start from scratch. Because I think these things are sort of masking them from being able to really talk.
Yeah. They can't hear each other at all. And it really reminds me of family. And they are to a degree. They have been through something that the rest of us will never experience, which is a rise to fame, 10 years on a show. We saw what the reaction was to them at BravoCon. They are legitimate bona fide stars in the Bravo world. And that's got to play into something. But I think in the same way that family can trigger you in with a breath, I feel like that's what's happening with these guys. And they really need some family therapy to kind of peel all of
I
that
could see them
away.
murdering each other otherwise. Like I could see this
Yeah.
ending in a murder. I'm not
Yeah.
joking.
Yeah.
One other
Yeah.
thing I'm curious your opinion on. I didn't love that Craig sort of kept turning to Shep when he was being quiet during the interaction. It was sort of like,
Hmm.
well, like he's trying to stay out of it. And now you're like negging him to be a part of it. He's like, remember when you felt the same way as me? Weren't you saying anything? Weren't you backing me up? And you can't drag someone
Hmm.
else into it like that. Like that was really not
Yeah.
cool. He felt like he didn't have the support, even though no one else was speaking. It really was just him and Austin, right? So it's not like
Yeah.
you had a whole bunch of people on Austin's side and he was alone, but I guess he still felt alone or not backed up. But
Mm.
like that place is a contentious piece as well, right?
Yeah.
Shep does kind of keep getting in the way of their friendship in other weird little ways as well. I'm curious, honestly, if they can ever really get to a good place, unless they really go to therapy, because I think there is just so much anger between these three or the two. It's like it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. Like it's funny
Yeah.
that you call them family because I believe you, but I also feel like they might be at that place where it's at the point where they can't speak anymore because they can't even have
Yeah.
the most simple conversations without literally going at each other. There is just so much anger there. And I even mean
Hmm.
for the show's sake, like I don't even know how we go on when these two can't even just sit in a car together and say hello without punching each other in the face.
Yeah.
I really
But
can't.
some families are like that. This is what I mean. I don't mean happy families. I mean, this is the real shit we see in families where
In families, you sort of feel
there's
like because you're family, you have to come back together, or not that you have to, but like you always
but
forgive because it's
yeah.
family. But I don't know that they will.
No, but also like, you have
Yeah,
spoken to this a little bit before and it doesn't always come back together. And sometimes there is so much bad blood and unresolved, like the carpet that's had things swept under is like a mountain at this
yeah,
point. And, it gets to a point sometimes where you can't ignore it anymore. And like you were saying, they cannot even sit in a car and talk to each other. They can't even be at a table with other people watering it down for very long. It's
not
like
even on a
any
birthday.
minute now, right? It's like any family situation where we can all say, "Hi, how are you?" And then we're seething and we're simmering. And all it takes is one wrong look or one tone or one comment, and like, bang, there we are again. So that's what I mean, that it's got that family flavor to it. And I think it's going to take a long time and a lot of work for them to really get to a place where it's all peace and love again.
Yeah,
And
but they'd have to want to as well. Like they have to
exactly.
both recognize that it's come
Yeah.
to that. But I even mean for the sake of the show. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how we do another
Oh,
season of this. We need to
oh,
have them go to therapy before, or we need to
yes.
watch it.
Yes,
I'll watch
exactly.
it. Just know
Yeah.
you
Hey,
got a
I'll be the
therapist out there.
therapist.
You'll be the therapist. I mean, hey, Leon, it
Yes.
was so amazing having you here today. I love having you on the
Oh,
show. Why don't you tell people where they can follow you and watch you and see what you have going on?
thanks, Dana. I love chatting with you. I'm so glad we hashed out our differences over Sally here
Thank
and
God.
Craig. Thank God, the love remains. So look, people can find me on Instagram at Jana.Firestone. That's Jana.Firestone. And you can watch Pop Therapy on YouTube. You can listen to Pop Therapy on your favorite podcast app. And you can find me at janafirestone.com.
Thank you, Yana.
Thanks, Dana.
Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast. For more content, head over to patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator podcast. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at the Bravo Investigator. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.